Hello everyone. Once again, welcome to our British Council Agents Networking event. I'm Anna Lee, Head of Education British Council Hong Kong. It's been a while since we last met. Really happy to see you all again in Hong Kong. This is today's rundown. Originally, our director of Hong Kong will be giving an opening speech. Unfortunately, she's unwell today, just like myself. So pardon me, I'm wearing mask today, so sorry about that. But yeah, because she's unwell, so she's unable to attend the session today. But I will promise that the event today will be short and sweet. First, I will give a market briefing and talk about the latest market trend in Hong Kong. Then I will pass to anyone from UKVI to give the update on visa application. And there will be a 15 minutes Q&A session before the networking reception starts. So before we start the market briefing, we are pleased to extend a warm invitation to you all for the East Asia Agents Conference, which will be held in Hong Kong on 6th of March. With more than 150 East Asian practitioners and UK university representatives participating, this will be an excellent opportunity to share information on regional specific topics and enhance industry knowledge. So please, sorry. So please scan the QR code and you can do the registration and to learn more about the event. So you're most encouraged to join us on 6th of March in Hong Kong. So last year it was held in Malaysia, and this time it moved to Hong Kong. So for the agents in Hong Kong, please, it is a great opportunity to join us this time. Now, I will start the market briefing and we'll talk you through the student mobility data first. When we look at the UK recruitment of international students from Hong Kong, UK remains well ahead of its competitor. According to the HESA data, it indicates that in the academic year of 2022 and 23, over 14,600 students from Hong Kong were enrolled in UK undergraduate programs, reflecting a modest growth of 3% compared to the previous year. However, when we look at the UCAS data, which is a more recent data, as of June deadline 2024, the number of applicants from Hong Kong decreased by 11% compared to the previous year. Despite the decline in application, the acceptance data indicate that the number of acceptance was only 6% lower than the previous year. This discrepancy shows a higher acceptance rate for Hong Kong students applying to the UK university in 2024. This means that while fewer students submit the applications, those who did appear to have a stronger likelihood of accepting the offers. This trend may suggest that Hong Kong students are now less inclined to shop around for multiple options and are now increasingly keen on pursuing the studies in the UK. In terms of subject interest, business study has been favored subjects among Hong Kong students, often perceived as a gateway to lucrative career opportunities in finance, management, and entrepreneurship. However, the recent statistics suggest a declining trend in this field. On the other hand, there are growing interest in other subjects like medicine and allied subjects, creative arts and design, and computer science. With the ongoing emphasis on public health, particularly highlighted by the COVID-19 pandemic, students are increasingly recognize the value of careers in healthcare. The gap between the business studies and health and medicines have been narrowed significantly, signaling that a shift in students' priorities toward employability and job security. And about the UK school sector, Hong Kong is the second largest market for independent schools in the UK after mainland China. In 2024, there were over 7,600 Hong Kong students studying in UK independent school, but it's 4% decline compared with last year. This data is the combination of non-British students with parents overseas, which is in blue color, and non-British students with parents in the UK, which is in orange in color. We can see the number of Hong Kong students with parents in the UK has increased by 10% from last year, indicating that a growing trend of families migrating to the UK. Conversely, the number of students with parents still in Hong Kong has decreased by 10%, suggesting that a decline in demand for boarding schools, because most of them, the families might have already moved to the UK in the early year. Another factor affecting or influencing the independent school sector is the introduction of VAT, which is set to roll out this year. While the tax may impact overall student number for the private school in the UK, it is expected to be implemented in phases. School may not pass the entire tax burden onto the parents, potentially mitigating the significant effects on the demand from Hong Kong family. Despite these changes, the demand for UK boarding school and independent school from Hong Kong remains strong, especially for those families seeking a high-quality education and a supportive community for their children. So we can still see quite strong demand from Hong Kong at this stage. We can see, so it's not a very positive news to the UK sector right now, and we can see there are decreased number in the number of students applying to UK schools and UK university from Hong Kong this year. The downturn can be attributed to several factors. First, it's because of the demographic shifts. So from the mobility data that I showed earlier, we can see that the demographic shifts continue in the territories, driven by a decline in birth rate and migration. Since 2020, more than 219,000 people have left Hong Kong, taking the advantage of the BNO settlement visa schemes and other schemes offered by the friendly countries like Canada and Australia. However, the introduction of the new top talent visa schemes in July 2023 that's designed to offset the loss of skills of labor. The Hong Kong population grew for the first time last year in 2024 since 2019. Over 120,000 employment visa has been issued since the beginning of 2023. 78% of this going to mainland Chinese. As of December 2024, approximately 90,000 mainland Chinese have been settled in Hong Kong. So quite a large number of new immigrants from China have been moved to Hong Kong this year. An influx of new talent may help to offset the drop in the city's student population, and it presents an opportunities for UK higher education sector in terms of moderating the decline in mobility to the UK. However, there is not likely to be the same level of recognition of the UK higher education brand among the new immigrants as there is among established Hong Kong residents. So for British Council, actually, we are planning to run a research to find out this new target audience, that is the new migrants from mainland China, to understand their behavior and their interests so that we could tap in this new target audience and hopefully we can explore and promote UK education to them. Another factor leading to the downturn is more Hong Kong students prefer to study locally. In the recent year, it has been a notable trend among Hong Kong students favoring local education institutions over studying abroad. Apart from the financial consideration, the Hong Kong universities have gained international recognition, ranking among the top international institutions globally. The growing reputation in these institutions has instilled the confidence in students and parents, reinforcing their interest in local education. Besides, the chief executive announced that last year in 2024, that Hong Kong will strive to build the study in Hong Kong brand, nurturing future talents and develop Hong Kong into an international hub for post-secondary education. The government has also earmarked a big piece of land in new territories for Northern Metropolitan University Town, and will encourage local postgraduate, local post-secondary institutions to develop branded programs, research collaboration, and exchange projects with renowned mainland and overseas institutions. And in conjunction with the policy implemented last year, which raised the ceiling for the non-local undergraduate intake from 20% to 40% of publicly funded places. So that's why they want to expand the recruitment from international students to Hong Kong. The implication to the UK sector is that, on the one hand, this could impact the student mobility to the UK in the sense that the local students and mainland Chinese students may be more attracted to the new and upcoming study options in Hong Kong as higher education institutions internationalize further and experience upgrades and provide more international recognition by the global ranking. It also presents a unique opportunities for UK, although there's some threats to the UK sector in terms of student mobility. It also have opportunities for UK university to looking to expand their global presence and the presence in Hong Kong as well. The establishment of the Northern Metropolis University Town is one of such opportunities for UK institutions to engage in research collaboration and develop branded programs in partnership with local institutions. There's therefore an opportunity time for UK to refresh its engagement with Hong Kong University, especially amid the declining student mobility to the UK and enrollment in TNE courses. But one thing we need to know is that there's not much meat on the bones of the ambition for Hong Kong to become an international study hub in this moment yet. And this ambition will be limited in the short term by the lack of student accommodation and infrastructure for international students. So you can see the limit of land and student accommodation. It might limit it and will hinder the international students to come to Hong Kong. In the medium term, the impact will be moderate because Hong Kong ambition will be limited by the size of HG sector in Hong Kong related to the UK. So there's a limitation for the local offering to the international students. So in short term and mid-term, it might be big challenges for Hong Kong to develop to the as a regional hub for study. But in longer term, I believe the Hong Kong government will put a lot of resources in terms of the infrastructure and the local higher education offerings. So it will in the pipeline right now. So the UK sector should be aware of that. So finally, we would like to emphasize that one of our key objectives is to enable international student mobility. One way of achieving this objective is supporting you, the education agents, who are often the first port of call for the prospective students and parents to improve your knowledge and understanding the UK education system. So you are encouraged to complete the training course on the British Council Agents and Council Training Engagement Hub and obtain certificates. The admission is free of charge, and so for those who haven't take the training, so you're most welcome to do that. This is an online training, so it's also quite flexible. So if you can log into the platform and the hub anytime when you are available. So you're most encouraged to sign up, and the latest updates about like the visa or UCAS, we will also update in the Agents Hub. So feel free to ask if you are not sure and you want to know more about details about this training. Now, maybe I can hand over to Andy to talk about the latest UK visa application. So thank you, Andy.
Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy. So I work for UKVI Immigration, the Home Office. So I'm based in the British Consulate. So today, we're going to give you a really quick kind of updates and recaps of what's going on in 2024 and what are we expecting in 2025. Well, I don't know you guys, but it feels like 2024 has been a year gone past really quickly. Without any notice, we are already in 2025, and then the Lunar Chinese New Year will be in about 2 weeks' time. So most Chinese will be in 2025, or the Year of Snakes, in just over 2 weeks' time. 2024 has been a quite significantly important for the UK immigration systems because we have introduced some major change to the immigration systems, including some of the major change we have introduced on the student visas. So let's have a quick recaps on the change we have introduced to the student visas back in 2024. So 3 main change we have introduced last year. So the first one is to limit the right for the postgraduate student to bring their dependents to study in the UK, which means the postgraduate students, they are no longer be able to bring their dependents to the UK. And that has a significant impact on some of our markets in Asia here, for example, in India, but it has very minimal impacts in our market here in Hong Kong because most of the postgraduate students coming from Hong Kong to study in the UK do not have a dependent with them. So it has a very minimal impacts here. And then we also removed the ability for students to switch from their study visas to their work visa before they complete their studies in the UK. And I think that's a fairly positive kind of a signal for our institutions in the UK, because in this way, you can kind of protect the term of the student going to study in the UK, but also to protect the fees or the funds you expected from the student, because they cannot drop off in the middle of their studies and switch to work visas. So that is 2 of the major change on our student visa policies. And one of the most important change in the recent years on the UK immigration system is we introduced the e-visas. And that is I would say, a very significant change in the last decades happens to the UK's immigration systems. So now, next we'll be looking at the e-visas. So this is a little stats we have last year to see how we have done in the Hong Kong markets. So you can see in the year ending September 2024, we issued around about just over 5,000 student visas in Hong Kong. It seems declining from the previous years, but at the same time, we also issue around about 31,000 BNO visas in Hong Kong, which we believe there's large proportions of the students who are supposed to be qualified for student visa did apply for BNO visa instead of the student visas. So from a historical data point of view, the students coming from Hong Kong are usually quite stable. So the decline of the student visas submitted in Hong Kong does not mean UK become less interest or less attractive to the Hong Kong students. It's just purely because a big proportion of students ends up applying for BNO visas instead of the student visas. It does not mean less students coming from Hong Kong. It just means they're applying for different type of visas. And for the student visas in Hong Kong, we have a really, really high grant rate, almost 100% grant rate. It's just some people maybe sometimes forget to submit some documents, which might lead to refusals. But the grant rate itself is really, really high in Hong Kong. So as I said, one of the big change we introduced later last year, and carry on to this year is what we call e-visas. So e-visas is a different kind of presentation of our immigration status. So previously, we will have what we call a paper vignettes to stick on your passports. That's what we normally call physical documents. And the e-visas basically is making that document become fully digital, which means it will be fully digital, fully online, and the benefit of that is you will not get lost of that document because it's not a paper, not a physical document, it just cannot be lost, okay? So that is the benefit of that. And then you will be able to show that to any of the stakeholders where they require to look at your immigration status just by logging onto your phones, your computers, and just scan the QR code. You will be able to check the student's status as well. So at the moment, the e-visa has been introduced to replace BRP card, the BRC cards, the web stamps, and some of the long-term visas. For the short-term visa, for example, for visitor visas, the e-visa is not quite there yet. So at the moment, the e-visa is replacing all our long-term visas, including work visa, student visas, etc. So accessing our e-visa is quite straightforward. You just have to create accounts. You just need to create an account on UKVI's website. And we have videos, and we have websites, and we have article on X to tell you how to do that. It's quite a straightforward process. And for some of the actions required by the students to get the e-visas is if you already have a BRP card, you'll be told you need to apply, you need to set up accounts on our websites to get access to your e-visa informations. So all of your students, if they applied last year, they will still receive a BRP card, and they will have a BRP card's expiry date set on the 31st of December last year. And if you are making a new applications this year, then once your visa decision has been given, you'll be receiving an email to tell you to set up accounts on UKVI's websites, and then you'll be able to get access to your e-visa informations. And if you already have e-visas, once you update your passport, let's say if you got a new passport, always remember to update that information on your UKVI's accounts. So e-visas is just a different presentations of your immigration status, but that does not change the overall visa application process. Okay, so you still need to have a CAS before you can apply for student visas. And you still have to go to our websites to fill out an online form, make an appointment with our visa application center. And you still have to go to a visa application center to leave your passport there, to submit your biometric information. And then once your visa decision has been given, it will be only two consequences. You either get it or you don't get it. Okay, so once you get it as an e-visas format. So after your visa has been granted, at the moment, we will still put 90 days vignettes on your passport. That has remained the same as last year, but we are going to get rid of that, but the time has not been decided yet. So it will come to a point this year where we do not need to produce those 90 days vignettes anymore. But up to this point, we will still have to produce a 90 days vignette to stick on your passport, which means you still have to leave your passport at the visa application center. And then once you've done that, you've got your visas, then you will receive emails to tell you to create accounts on UKVI's websites, and then your e-visa information will be loaded there. So the different process from the previous year is once you get to the UK in the past, you have to go to a post office or the school to collect the BRP card. As from this year, you don't have to do that anymore. So there's no BRP cards. We stopped producing BRP cards. So there will be no BRP card connection for any of the new students starting from this year. So our visa application centers, there's only one in Hong Kong, which is located in this address in North Point. Yes, been moved location, but it just moved to a floor above. So it's still within the same building, same location, but different floor. And the process time we have here in Hong Kong, we have three kind of services. The first one is without any additional fees. It's what we call standard services, and it will take about 15 working days to get your visa decisions. And if someone wanted quicker, we introduce the 5 days priority visa services here in Hong Kong. And last year in October, we have announced we are going to introduce the 24 hours super priority visa services here in Hong Kong. But at the moment, we still have some last piece of work to work on the IT side of things to enable us to provide the super priority visa services in Hong Kong. But it should be fairly quickly. So I will hope maybe later this month, our super priority visa services should be able to offer to the Hong Kong national here in Hong Kong. Right, so you may be very familiar with this list. It's what we used to call Appendix H, but it also called the Document Differentiation Arrangements List. So what does this mean? Is if your students holding a passport issued by one of these nations or areas, then once you come to apply for student visa, you only need to provide a very small set of documents. And I would believe everybody here are very experienced agents or the university school reps, so I'm not going to detailing what documents students need to prepare for their student visas. But a classic example for this is a over 18 years old Hong Kong student going to study a non-sensitive courses in the UK. The only one document they need to provide is their TB certificate. Other than the TB certificate, there's no other documents a Hong Kong student we need to provide. So the documents required is really, really minimum. So after they completing their study, the options are pretty much remain the same as we previously offer. So for graduates coming from a degree course or postgraduate course, you get a 2 years graduate route visa. So 2 years work visas after they completing their study. If you're a PhD student, you get 3 years. Then certainly after those 2 years or 3 years, if you want to continue to work in the UK and your employer is happy to sponsor you, you can switch to a skilled worker visa as well. So we give students enough options for them to continue their work, their life in the UK after they're completing their study. Then certainly for the Hong Kong students, you have the option of applying for BNO visas as well. And one kind of very important thing I would like to talk about today is what we call ETA, so Electronic Travel Authorizations. So for people studying in the UK, for Hong Kong students studying in the UK, there's only 2 scenarios. You're either going to study in the UK over for 6 months' time or less than 6 months' time. If you're going to study in the UK for over 6 months' time courses, you'll be applying for student visas. If you are going to study in the UK for less than 6 months courses, for example, exchange programs or short time courses, then you don't need to apply for visas. So usually before the 8th of January this year, you'll be able to just pick up your passport, just go to study in the UK for any courses less than 6 months. But ever since the 8th of January, we have made it mandatory for the people to apply for what we call ETA for non-visa nationals, such as Hong Kong's to going to visit the UK. So ETA is not a new thing in the world. The American has done that for years. The Aussie has done that for years. So basically, anybody who doesn't usually require a short visit visa to the UK will now have to apply this what we call ETA to go to visit the UK. So if you want to go to the UK for short stay, staying the period of time less than 6 months, like tourist short courses, you will now have to apply for what we call ETA. So before the 8th of January 2025, this is not a mandatory requirement, but ever since the 8th of January, so today is the 15th of January, which means everybody holding a Hong Kong passport going to UK for a short stay, they will have to apply for ETA. So ETA is cost £10 and it will last for 2 years and multiple use. So once you pay £10, you'll be able to use that for up to 2 years, or if your passport expired before that. And applying for the ETA is a really quick process. You can either download a UK ETA app to apply for the ETA, or you could go to gov.uk's website to apply for ETA. And ETA require minimum 3 days to process. So it does require some time to process ETA's application. It's not something like you turn up at the airports and you don't have an ETA, the airline tells you, no, you can't board unless you have an ETA. Then you just fill out the form at the airport. It doesn't work like that. So it requires at least 3 days. So please do apply ETA 3 days before your travel days. And we understand recently there's been some noise about ETAs in the Hong Kong market here. Some Hong Kong nationals, when they come to apply for ETAs, maybe they will be shown as not eligible on the website. And that is because the way how we process the application is everybody, if you remember, when you go across the border, when the border officer check your passports, they will swipe it onto a machine, right? So this is what we call MRC machines. So they will read a little code at the bottom of your bio page. So remember on the bottom of your bio page on your passport, there's a series of numbers, letters, and symbols. This is what we call MRC code. So the way the Hong Kong government issue their passport is on that little code, they will classify all Hong Kong SAR passport holder as a Chinese nationalities. Okay, so once our machine read that code, the ETA page will be automatically default your nationality as a Chinese. Okay, so if you stick with that and carry on the process, you will have no problem getting your ETAs. But some people, some Hong Kong people have a very strong views and perception about their nationalities. So they will manually change from a CHN to Hong Kong nationality. And that's where the problem comes up. Then you will be pumped to a website to say your ETA is not eligible. So we acknowledge the problems and we are working to resolve the problems. But before we can resolve the problem for the time being, please, if you want a smooth process, but you stick onto the nationality automatically generated by the system, then you will have no problem. So we do realize there's a noise here in the Hong Kong, and we are working on it to address the problems. Right, so this is some of the really useful website and the QR code and the videos kind of demonstrate the topics I just mentioned. So you're more than welcome to record those and share with your customers. And certainly there's some links here as well, so including where you can take the TB test here in Hong Kong, so where's our visa application center, information about student visas and BMO visas as well here. So it's a very useful links. And then last but not at least, I just want to remind everybody, it is a dangerous world out there. So, right, so there's a lot of scams and fraud websites out there. So, for example, as soon as we introduce these ETAs to the world, there have already been hundreds and hundreds of scam websites and telling people you can apply ETA from this address, and then you'll be able to pay this fee to expedite the process for ETA. So that's all scams. That's all fraud. Okay, so please be careful when you come to apply for any of the visa documents for the UK. Okay, so please do not fall for the fraud. Right, thank you very much for your time. So I will see you around during the network engagements.
Thank you very much, Anthony, for a very informative presentation. So before we go to the networking reception, so do you have any questions? Now we'll go to a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and ask.
Thank you. I've got a question potentially for Andy. So thank you, Andy, for the info. I've got a question about joint CAS and longer visas for students. Is it an appropriate question to ask?
What do you mean?
So many universities, they have the English programs before a semester formally starts. So probably they call it processional or short English. As I understand, the UKVI allows part of that program to be incorporated into the student visa. So what are the standards for that? For example, can we use a university test at the end or at the beginning of that English program to get a longer joint visa?
Well, as I said, I mean, if your students are mainly coming from Hong Kong, right? So
Well, actually, I'm asking for Hong Kong and mainland China.
that's fine. I think because mainland China and Hong Kong, they're also on this what we call Appendix H list, which means they enjoy the same benefit of documents reductions. So because they enjoy the benefit of documents reduction, so we do not require to see their IELTS results, and we do not require to see whether they have passed the English requirements test or not. So as long as the institutions is happy to accept your student to enroll at your university, then we are fine with that. So the way we look at the length or the durations on the visa is purely depends on the CAS we have seen. So as long as the university or the institutions, your CAS, was given the times which cover both the preceptional courses and also the main courses, then our visas duration will cover both.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's basically my question. So there's no official start of September or anything. It can be July or August. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sorry, another question about visa. I just want to ask about like the differentiation of different nationalities in terms of the documents required. So quite a few occasions, like during summer, I do have students that would actually approach me and say that their visa application has been like going on pending, even though they are Hong Kong nationals, Hong Kong passport holder. They would have been asked to provide supplemental documents, especially on financial documents. So this is actually something that like especially parents would come and talk to us and say that like because on the website, on the UKVI website, specific say that like for Hong Kong nationals they don't have to provide such documents, but then there might be confusion as to if the student has been like randomly being picked to ask for those. The question is, do they still have to provide, or would that differentiation be enough to say that because I'm a Hong Kong national, so I don't actually need to provide those additional documents? I do have students that got rejected because they haven't prepared the financial documents in that case. So yeah, hopefully you'll be able to answer my questions.
Yes, that's right. On the differentiation arrangements, list nations and areas, we do not require them to provide those documents. But then we do reserve the right, I mean, our decision maker do reserve the right to ask the applicant to provide any of the documents which will help them to make their visa decision. As you rightly point out, yes, for the audit purpose, we will do deep samples sometimes during the application process where we will randomly pick students to ask them to provide additional documents other than what was asked from a differentiation arrangements list nations. So my advice is you do not need to provide those documents at the submission of your documents, but you'd better have those documents ready, let's say safe in your house, just in case the student has been picked and asked to provide those. So especially on the financial side of documents, it's better to have that fund available in the bank before your visa decision has been received. So you do not need to provide those documents unless you've been asked to do that. So that would be my advice. You don't need to provide that, but better have that ready just in case you've been asking.
Hi, sorry, one more for the visas. With the now introduction of putting agents on CASs, how much weight will that have in the visa decision? Is there any indication of that?
No, there's no weight for whether you put agents on CAS or not.
Hello, just another one regarding visas. So with the introduction of e-visas, are passports still going to be stamped in the same way for entry clearance, or is that going to be any difference from when it comes to enrollment? We need to look at specific stamps and stuff like that.
Right to this moment, you will still get 90 days student visas on your passports. And we haven't set a day when we will stop doing that, but we're probably looking at somewhere around April, May time. We might stop producing the 90 days VDS. So if we do stop producing the 90 days VDS, then there will be no signs on the passport whatsoever to check whether the people has got any rights to study in the UK or not, unless you ask for the proof and view services on the QR code where I show you the e-visa information. And because a lot of the Hong Kong national will be able to use the e-gate that goes through the borders, there's no stamps on the passport at all, so there will be no trace of any of the proof on their passport unless you look at their e-visa information.
Okay, thank you. I just have another question around the data and insights. So overall, we can see that there's a slight reduction in numbers. Is that against both undergraduate and postgraduate, or are you seeing a decline in both, or yeah, pretty much?
Yeah, after checking the HISA data, for HISA data, because it's not the most latest one, is the year of 2022 and 2023. So you can see my PowerPoint that there's a moderate growth for UG program for 3%. But we also find there's a decline in the application to PG in 2022 and 23, maybe because of most of them maybe prefer to study locally that I just mentioned in my PowerPoint, and they might also maybe opt for other competitors like Canada. They have also have quite increase in demand for the undergraduate and postgraduate program due to they offer a very friendly migration pathway to Hong Kongers. So that might affect the number of Hong Kong students applying to the postgraduate degree in the UK as well. So we can also see there's a slight decline. It's not a huge dip, but there's a slight decline in the number of people applying the PG program. Any other questions? If not, then we can start to drink and enjoy your food. I know you all long for that, but yeah, enjoy your food. Oh, before we end, we have a survey. So if you have we really treasure your comments and feedback about the event. So if you have time, please scan the QR code here, and your feedback is much appreciated. Thank you, and enjoy your food and drink. Thank you.